Having existed in a power over structure for eons, the sacred fire, which is essentially the life force of creativity and expression, that was being oppressed and suppressed in that power over dynamic. Someone described it recently as the sacred fire, that essence, that life force, becoming like a shield wall. And many of us will resonate with having to have lived with boundaries and walls up around the heart because it hasn't been safe to fully express, fully be seen, fully be present in the truth of who we are. In other words, the sacred fire has not been allowed to be expressed. It hasn't been received. It's been feared and oppressed, suppressed. So we've been living in this power over structure, and our sacred fire that burns within has been functioning as like a shield wall. And the energy of that is attack defense. So in a power over structure, we're either on the attack or we're defending ourselves. We're either the oppressor or we're suppressed. And this dynamic of attack defense, this energy that we can feel within us when people speak to us, when we think, how we think. A lot of women, a lot of us think very defensively and sometimes behave that way as well, or speak that way in conversations, in relationships, because we have this underlying way that we function, this way of being, where our shield wall, our sacred fire, is always on the attack or the defense, because we've had to be like that to survive. We've had to be that way to keep ourselves safe. But now there's something that's very different that's being asked of our sacred fire. We're actually being asked to consciously step out of our inner patterns, programming, and that paradigm within of attack defense. And we're being asked to notice where it exists within us, in the minutiae, within the smaller, subtle details of how we think, how we interact, how we are in our relationships. And it takes a vulnerability, right, to let down those walls. It takes a vulnerability to be neutral when we would normally be defensive. It takes a whole consciousness shift of realizing that actually there's nothing to defend anymore. There's nothing to prove anymore. And we're not here to prove ourselves. We don't have to prove ourselves, explain ourselves, justify ourselves. And we're not under threat. No one's out to get us. And we don't have to manipulate to get our needs met. It's a whole consciousness paradigm shift that represents this dismantling of this power over structure. The sacred fire within now wishes to burn in congruence with our truth. It wishes to express itself and function as a shield, if you like, but not a shield wall. A shield which represents its power is truth and love. And it stands for that, and it speaks for that, and it's not available for anything else, and it's not attached to anything. Being, experiencing life, flowing and expressing from that space is very different energy to the attack defense. So there's an invitation for all of us to look within. And we will notice, we know these parts of us. We know when we're being defensive. We know this type of triggers, maybe from our partner or people close to us. Family are great ones for bringing these kind of deep core structures within us out very quickly, right? So notice within where the defensiveness pops up, where we feel like we need to explain ourselves or justify, and where we kind of pivot on this structure that's operating within, when actually a lot of the time we may not genuinely feel that way anymore, or we may know that we're being defensive and know that there isn't really any reason for it. It's simply where this internal structure still exists, and where that fiery energy is moving through the body but not quite finding a clear channel, not quite in alignment with your true desires. So in other words, the energy is resisting something rather than flowing in alignment with your truth in that moment, whatever that is. In the last video, I mentioned briefly about the fire energy being the power behind the will. And if we're unconscious of that, or not channeling it with intention, or we haven't owned our desires to enable us to do that and get everything in alignment and working together, a clear channel, a clear signal. When we're not consciously doing that with the fire energy, it will be the willpower will be being used within to deny your desires, not to affirm them. This universe and our construct, our human design, is set up in such a way where our mind, our brain, is constantly affirming or denying something. If you think about how you observe the world and how you think, we're constantly making yes, no, affirm, deny. That's the way the mind works. It's judgment in its very purest sense, without any value connotation. It's what the mind does to sift and sort things, affirm, deny. And if we're not conscious of the powers in our body and not working with the elements, these very strong forces are essentially scattered or not working in harmony with each other, not in alignment with what your consciousness wishes to create. In other words, everything's not moving in the same direction. So owning our desires and becoming conscious of, where we're out of alignment there, and where we're not allowing a movement through the body and the self-realization in that way. This powerful force that's always present, it's a life force, it's essentially our primal kundalini light energy. It's always there. So if we're not aligning with it, harnessing it for the purpose of co-creation consciously, then it's going to be felt as resistance. It's going to have the effect in the body of denying that desire because it's not owned, because it's an unconscious desire. So what are you affirming or denying? And what can we make more conscious so that we can really fuel that desire? The fire asks so many questions of us. And even for me, even just answering the question, what do you want? What is it you desire? What are your dreams? That wasn't an easy question for me to answer. It took me a long time of reconnecting with my ability to dream and allow myself to fully feel and own my desires. But until we do that, we can't create a clear signal to receive the experience of that. Thank you for being here. I love you so much. And I'm just really grateful. Thank you for all the energy exchanges. I'm sending you so much love today. Wherever you find this, whenever you find it, it's timeless. I love you. Until next time.